everyone. Welcome to another edition of Big Kris Live, the live stream, and then the podcast, which is available everywhere you get podcasts, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, formerly known as Apple iTunes or whatever it was. Also, DeanBlundell.com. Thanks to him, we are streaming right now live on YouTube, on DeanTube, I should say, as well as the DeanBlundell.com Twitter account. And, of course, on Facebook, Big Kris Radio. Thank you for everyone who follows and also checks out and makes the audio podcast part of their daily routine, of which I'm getting some feedback lately. You have been. That's awesome news. And our guest just literally disappeared behind me. What are you doing?
A call came in.
Oh, no.
I had it shut off. I swear.
Whoever's calling Graham Greer, stop it right now. We got Graham Greer on the Zoom phone with us. You've got a wicked... That already answers my very first question is, do you still have that Guild guitar? And there it is. Pre-1992, if I'm not mistaken. It's the old classic Guild.
That is a 78 right there.
A 78?
Yeah.
How do you maintain a guitar like that, man? Do you rub it down with baby oil every night before you go to bed? Does your wife get jealous?
No, I tuck it in every night with me.
So she is jealous.
Yeah.
Graham Greer, when I first met Graham, he was just endeavoring in a bit of a solo fashion. The artist or the name of the your pseudonym pseudonym was Moonlight Graham, correct? And
yes.
And the album was Palookaville.
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. My memory. I'm doing all this by memory. I don't do as much preparation when I have guests on that I've known before. Or
oh, that's good to know.
I just kind of wing it. I'm like, yeah, I remember this thing that happened that time. You know, we could talk about that.
So you just keep having people on that you know, so you don't have to do any work. Is that
pretty
how
much?
It works?
Yeah, pretty much. Man.
I get it.
Yeah. Graham lives in Cornwall, Ontario, but Barstool Profits toured coast to coast. That's where I met Graham. Barstool Profits was the major label band. You were on. Was it Universal?
We signed to Mercury, who were a Universal record company. Yeah.
Yeah.
We signed to Mercury in Canada, and then a year later to Mercury in the States too.
And you guys had some big tours. You came up on a few podcasts back when I had Craig Northey and Rob Baker from the Tragically Hip and Craig Northey from The Odds. They have the Strippers Union, which is their third record, which is out. It's actually on the turntable behind me here. And I brought you up because you always spoke so highly of Craig and touring with The Odds when you guys were in Barstool Profits. Maybe he didn't have any real stories, or he didn't want to like betray any trusts. Do you have any? Do you have any stories from those touring days?
The touring with we've done some solo ventures throughout Ontario, into Quebec, and into Manitoba, and into the northern states before we were signed. But we got a manager in Toronto in '94. Mm-hmm. And the first thing they did was hook us up with a tour with Odds. And we did everywhere from, we did Toronto at the Horseshoe, was our first 2 nights with them. And then we did all the way across to the Commodore Ballroom in Vancouver with them. I think it was like a 4-week, maybe 3.5 weeks, 3.5 weeks total.
Yeah.
But it was our first foray into professional, this is how it's done. And they took us under their wing, and for better or worse, to some degrees, they taught us a lot of don'ts.
Yeah.
In addition to a lot of do's, and they were just fantastic guys, and they knew that we were green, and they were complimentary, and they taught us about gear, and it was an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
For that, and it worked out so well for us because we carried everything that we gleaned from that time with Odds, we carried with us right till the day we stopped touring. So it was so beneficial to have great guys on the first time out, because we had some other experiences that were not positive. And had they been the first foray, it would have been a completely different ballgame.
Yeah, no doubt, right? Yeah, and timing is such a big thing too. And maybe we'll just jump right into this. Barstool Profits. You know, I don't know whether it was you or maybe my roommate, Tommy 20, shout out to Tommy Heatley, or there was somebody, or maybe it was just someone drunk at the patio at La Maison in Cornwall that said this, but like, and I kind of understood the sentiment was like, man, Barstool Profits got fucked over by Napster, man. I don't think that was you that said that, but you might have corroborated that. Because you guys were just starting, like 2-3 albums in, and then Napster came along, and I remember that was a game changer. And was that like part of a problem? Is that why things kind of wrapped up a bit?
We were the unfortunate recipients of a bad string of coincidences that all kind of culminated at the same time. And it was a Napster around the late 90s when our second record came out. It lasted Big Game Hunters, so it was 97, and by 98 we were playing bigger and bigger clubs because we were gaining more and more notoriety. We were all over the radio.
I remember that, especially I grew up in Ottawa, right? So you guys were on Ottawa radio like crazy. Like I thought you were an Ottawa band, and I think you were billed as an Ottawa band for a bit.
We were living in Ottawa from 93, about 93 on. And got signed while we were living in Ottawa. So
yeah, that made sense.
Yeah. We basically moved up to Ottawa to go to university, and then dropped out and get a record deal.
That's rock and roll, baby.
You go whichever the way where the wind is blowing you, right? So but yeah, file sharing I think contributed a lot to it, because the record company meetings we would have, they'd say, you guys are doing really great on the road, and you're raking it in when it comes to touring, but nobody's buying the albums. Yeah, and they hadn't really figured out that was part of the future.
Yeah, they only just are now starting to realize that nobody's buying albums, and that's the new business model, right? But back then it was a big problem for some reason. Absolutely.
And I mean, we'd had pretty good success with Much Music and Music Plus and MTV. Yep. Where videos were finally getting played. And then the record company, Universal, had a new president that came in, and he was trying to shake things up and make his own mark.
Oh yes, and the young, hungry executive.
I remember one meeting. We're all sitting around this big boardroom table, and he says, "You guys are doing okay at video, but you're much better at radio. I think we're going to take all of your video allowance for a friend of mine. We're going to put it into radio promotion." We're like, "Oh, okay,
all right."
This was like the third. I think "Friend of Mine" was the third single on that record.
That was the biggest song too, right? "Friend of Mine."
It was the biggest freaking song.
Yeah, that was a big single. Anyone, go and look it up.
They sapped all of our record. Yeah, they sapped our video money away to put it into radio promotion, and it kind of stalled everything. So
you go look up "Friend of Mine." Actually, look up all of our Stool Profits catalog. And here's the other thing: like if you do. You'll recognize the songs. I know you will recognize some of those songs, and maybe you know what I mean. You just didn't go enough to get that household name variety, but people will know those songs. I know they will, Graham. I really do. You guys had a big impact, and so those are some great albums, man. Last of the Big Game Hunters was my favorite single. It was the name of the record too, but I love that guitar hook, man. I love like, man, like how is that not a winner, right?
Exactly. And that was the four of us horsing around we had a rehearsal spot here in Cornwall at the time that Glenn's dad had gotten for us. And it was one of those, those buildings that go with that are on a public space with a swimming pool and a tennis court and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was one of those, I think the Boys and Girls Club had used the building previously. And nobody was using it. We moved all our gear in there for about 4 months when we were off the road.
Nice.
And after Crank, and we wrote so much stuff in there, but it was all just horsing around. We just kind of hung out, and that riff came up, and we all laughed. And Al added the descending bit on it.
Yeah.
And we were all kind of laughing like, "That's absurd. Let's do it."
Well, you talk about. You talk about Cornwall and mentoring. You're talking about being mentored with Odds and those guys on the road. Yeah. But like you guys have at least you. I know, like, and even just your presence in the city of Cornwall. There's people who really, really feel influenced by you. I remember when I lived there, my roommate Tommy, I can't believe I'm giving Tom. I didn't plan on giving him 2 shout outs in one episode, but anyways, I remember he I think there was like some open mic night that you were hosting at some pub or something. And he went, and it was quiet, and he got to jam with you on acoustics. And I think you did "Sunshine So Fine." And when we got back home, he drank 3 beers, and then he told me, he's like, "Dude, that was like a huge moment for me." How do you feel about that, man? Like, there are people who live in your backyard who were like who thought you were the shit, man. Like you were influential on them.
Yeah, it boggles my mind, but we still before COVID, when we'd go out, there's always somebody that comes up to my wife and I and says something of a similar attack, and I'm very proud that people think of us in those positive terms. What more could you ask for, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But Tommy Heatley, the first job I ever had when I was a kid, I was 16. I worked for Tommy's dad at a bathtub plant.
Yeah, they make spas or the baths and stuff.
He used to make actually bathtubs and shower units back then. And the company I worked for, Tommy's dad was one of my bosses.
Yeah.
And I remember Tommy hanging around when he was a little pipsqueak. So it's yeah.
It's so funny that you say pipsqueak because he's like my age and we were roommates. But you got a birthday tomorrow.
I do.
What is it?
Milestone.
Be honest.
50.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's just as many as gray hairs on my chin.
I'm glad I turned the contrast up on the TV so we could capture that. The tiger stripes.
Awesome.
Well, I'm turning 40 in a few weeks too. April 2nd, I'll be 40. So that's funny. There's a 10-year gap there between us. It's cool, man. Back to Tommy for a second. I got a Tommy story.
That's 3 shout-outs.
Yeah, I know. It's okay. It's all right. You mentioned that his dad's business. And eventually when I knew Tommy, his dad had a spa business where they made custom hot tubs and stuff. And
yeah, they still do. Yeah,
they still. Oh, okay. Well, I won't mention the business name because Tommy and I, after one rowdy night out at a bar somewhere, Tommy just had the keys to his dad's shop, and there's a big showroom right on Pitt Street in Cornwall, and we were having a hot tub right there in the showroom, right in front of everyone's walking by at 2 a.m, watching after the bars and everything.
Shameful. That's shameful.
No, not at all. It's good times is what it is.
That's fantastic.
So we've been through sort of the I would say the bulk of Barstool Profits, but let's go back to just before. There was a conflict in the naming of the band. It was not the original name of the band. Was it? It was the Wallflowers, right?
Yeah. When we started in high school in 1989. And we called ourselves the Wallflowers.
Yeah.
And then in the early 90s, Bob Dylan's son, Jacob Dylan, came out with his Wallflowers.
Who does he think he is?
Well, and it was getting pretty confusing.
Yep.
Our drummer's name was Bob, so they thought he was Bob Dylan Jr. And it was,
you guys should have tried to ride that.
Yeah. Well, I think we did for a little while, but it wasn't going very well.
No, it isn't.
So we had a naming party at I think at Grand Central in Ottawa.
Yeah.
And we where we unveiled the new name. But a lot of the band meetings to pick new band names were hilarious.
Because
we would all come in with handwritten. Okay, these are my 5 choices. We put them in a bag, and we pull them out, and then we go, what? Go to the next one. And they were terrible. They were terrible.
Really?
Terrible.
Like just the Beatles kind of terrible.
Oh, I remember one, and I'm gonna out Bobby Tamas, our drummer. He had one 4 on the floor, so that we could go anywhere and do anything.
Sorry, Bob. Come again.
He had taglines for all of his choices. so we were arguing just the fact that they needed explanation was enough to get them out of the list.
Yeah, they had to elaborate further. That's a problem. It's a problem.
Yeah, stressful times.
Yeah. Speaking of the guys in the band, I don't remember who it was, but they had a special skill. They had a special magic trick or a power. Do you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, there was someone in the band, if I'm not mistaken, who had the ability to tell you what kind of nipples you had through a shirt. Without disrobing, he could tell you what kind of nipple. Who was that? If you dare name them.
How did you know that?
How do I know that? I remember it. I just remember. Again, I'm going by memory here, Graham. Going from
Glenn
memory.
Forrester.
It was Glenn. Okay, I didn't want to out him.
That's Glenn's. It's a skill he's had for years, and he would describe nipples not just to women but to men.
Yeah.
He would based on their appearance, their hair color, their complexion. he would describe their nipples by size and coloration and
all the details.
All the details, and people were amazed. And we didn't verify the findings, but just the fact that the people responding,
the look on their face
were flabbergasted.
Yeah,
yeah, he was bang on all the time. So
the one, maybe it was him himself, or maybe it was you. Someone told me the story that where the proof where everyone finally started to believe in his power was where someone said, "I bet you'll never guess what kind of nipples I have." And he said, "You have inverted nipples," and he guessed it right.
And famously, so Phil Inouye, who is an original member of the Wallflowers, he's now a gastroenterologist in Ottawa. He's a doctor. His wife.
He stayed in university.
yeah, he did. He went to McGill instead of Ottawa. So.
Right.
His wife, when we first met her, Glenn told her that she had 3 nipples, and we thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
And she actually did.
It's truly magic. That's what I'm saying, man. There's
I don't know how he does it. I don't know how he does it. It's kind of, he's tapped in. He's just tapped in.
Yeah. What's everybody? Is everyone still living in Cornwall area? Like in the area?
Glenn and I are both here in Cornwall still.
Yeah.
Bobby moved back to his childhood town in Stratford about 10 years ago, maybe, with his wife and family, to be close to his parents. And Al lives in Ottawa still. Al Morier.
Yeah. He's
teaching. He's in the. I'm going to say he's in Orleans, just outside of Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got two sons, and he and his wife are happy and healthy there, as far as I know. So.
Oh, that's good, man. Well, I always think back favorably on my times there, and I always remember, Graham, you sort of being like this. I wouldn't say elder statesman, but you were an influencer. Like you are now for sure with the elder of the tribe beard there, but you'd been there, you'd been to the show, I think in a lot of people's minds, and
yes.
But I also remember like I was there and there was a posse and we just every night of the week, it was wild. But once in a while, Graham would show up. Once in a while, we'd see out on the patio having a time. But like it showed me too. I thought to myself, he's probably got the right idea here. But by that time you were married. You had kids too. Like you weren't able to full on just put the pedal to the metal every night of the week.
Well, eventually everyone slows down, Kris.
I'm finding that out. I'm starting to find that out. And it's funny how you can go as fast as you can until all of a sudden hey, maybe it isn't you that hits the brake, something else hits the brake for you.
That's right. And it's not the act of merriment.
Mm-hmm.
It's the recovery from merriment the next day that's the crux.
Yeah.
That's the the bounce back is not what it used to be.
Yeah. Well, that's true too. I had a couple on the weekend too, and I had hangovers like I'd never had before. It was pretty dastardly, and I'm like, here comes 40. I'm around the corner.
That's right.
It's going to happen, right?
It's the shape of things to come, my friend.
Yeah. I can only imagine what your hangover is going to be like this weekend after your celebration, man.
Well, I think pretty much it's just going to be my wife and our youngest son and I.
I guess
we haven't been seeing people. We've been staying away from my parents, staying away from her parents.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, it's been such a shitty year, and especially for people in the entertainment business or the music business, or like it basically, I know musicians who have said, what, I'm going to take this time and do an online university course, or I'm going to re-educate, or I'm going to, like everyone it really just got their knees taken out from underneath them. Like you too, I'd imagine, like you do music lessons. There's all sorts of things that could trickle down, right?
I'm lucky that I'm in a spot where it hasn't hit me as hard as some people.
Mm-hmm.
But I was just talking to a fellow named Ken Stone. He was our sound man for years,
mm-hmm.
and he went on to be Blue Rodeo's sound man and tour manager there for a little while. And he's got nothing going on right now. There's no industry for him. There's nothing.
Yeah.
And he's been working construction and it's unreal. And a lot of my musician friends who that was their bread and butter, it's very, very spotty. They're doing online stuff and I don't know how they're getting by. I really don't. It's it's crazy times for the whole music industry.
Yeah. It seemed like for a second maybe the live stream thing was going to be a good thing.
Yeah.
But then everybody got a live stream, and I'm live streaming right now. Everybody, but every musician, has a live stream, and I think maybe there was a bit of fatigue really early on with that.
Well, and it's really hard to monetize it. It's hard to make a living doing that. We have a great friend in Ottawa, Dave Khalil. He's one of the dueling piano guys in Ottawa. He and Tyler Keeley, but Dave's been doing great work on Facebook Live, and all he does is he puts a virtual tip jar out, and he does I think it's Tuesday nights and Saturday nights on Facebook.
Right.
And now he started doing. It's been going so well for him that he started doing outreach for different charities, and he just raised $24,000 last Saturday for.
Wow.
I think it was one of the food banks, if I'm not mistaken, but it's amazing. It's amazing. So I think there are pockets that it can make it work.
Yeah.
But you have to have that. You have to have that underlying infrastructure in your fan base before you can even think of tapping into something that's going to make you a living.
Just to mention a podcast we got coming up later on this week, we're going to have Ashley McIsaac on Friday. And I've noticed on his Facebook, he's cut Cameo out of the mix. He's now doing straight up through his social media saying, I'm just going to be a terrible East Coast accent. Oh, hey, now, bud, send me a message and I'll write you a tune on my fiddle, and he'll record it and send it to you.
Yeah.
But that's what he's doing to make money during these times, right? Like everybody has to get creative. So it's been tough. I really, I've been lucky because I do the radio show, and luckily, people still were on the road driving to work for not as many people, but still enough people that it made my job essential. And I do consider myself really lucky to have ridden it out on the air. And I didn't do my show from home. I did it. I went into the radio station every day, and sure, there's the, gas stations and wiping your hands 1,000 times and wearing masks inside the radio station. But at the end of the day, I'm lucky that, my routine, I still wake up at the same time. I still come home at basically the same time. It hasn't really changed much. And certainly my bank account, my paycheck hasn't changed either. So I'm really fortunate in that regard, which brings me to the city of Cornwall, Graham. How is the city doing? Because I drove through not that long ago, maybe a couple of years ago. It didn't seem like it was doing too good. I mean, especially compared to 2003, 2004 when I lived there.
I think before the pandemic, our downtown area was kind of on the wane again. It kind of goes through ups and downs. We've got a lot of big box stores. We've got a lot of that encroaching on our more regional businesses. So the downtown is in a bit of a wane. Was in a bit of a wane before COVID hit. Mm-hmm. And I know people who were just opening up their businesses at this time last year. Hoping for a good 2020 spring and summer. Yeah. And
fell flat, right?
It just threw them for a loop. A friend who opened a Jamaican restaurant, and I think I heard that he's stepping away as of the last couple of weeks because it's just not. You just can't do it on takeout.
Yeah. Same here too. In the GTA, obviously it's still crazy. Barrie just got on gray zone. They just got put back to lockdown, for God's sake. Are you guys green zone?
We're orange as of a couple of weeks, last week. I'm not sure. I don't think that's changed.
My kingdom for orange.
Yeah.
But there was this restaurant that opened up for us too. You say Jamaican, I say Indian. And it was honestly, no joke, the best Indian I've ever had. It really was. And they literally were open for 3-4 weeks. And I swear every night of the week for 3 to 4 weeks, we were trying to support them. Like, we must've been their only clients because they opened up literally like March 1st, 2020. Like it was the worst. Right. But you try and do your part, and I'm still trying to lose the weight that I put on over the last year, but
your COVID-19,
COVID-19 pounds. Yeah. But it's a far cry from the weight that I used to be when you knew me in Cornwall, man. Big Kris was like more like venti sized, like at Starbucks. Like it was a big version of myself back then, man. But it was great. It was great chumming around the scene and hanging there in Cornwall. And I always have some great memories. And I always root for it like an underdog. Like I remember too, there's always people who always talk about the Royals, the OHL team they had there, the Cornwall Royals. Like there's all these sort of like underdog things. Even your band, Barstool Profits, like that, you know, like fucking Napster, you know, or whatever. But but we lost the Royals, you know, and then they lost Domtar, and at the time it didn't seem like Domtar, the factory or the pulp mill there was a great thing, but obviously it was, you know, for jobs and so forth and for the economy. But there was always this sort of also, and historically, people would talk about how the very first factory installed light bulb was in Cornwall. That Alexander Graham Bell himself came to Cornwall, Ontario, and said, "This is going to be the next boom town in Canada, and I'm going to install the first electric light bulb in Canada in this factory down on the waterfront in Cornwall." Everyone has this sort of like, "Fuck, we just missed the ball" sort of mentality in Cornwall, dude.
The light bulb's still there. It's still running. It hasn't burned out yet. It's amazing. It's
incredible. They just don't make them like they used to. I think that's the moral of the story.
Very, very thick filament.
Yeah, for sure. But I always have great thoughts and great wishes for everyone there. Shout out to anyone that we have mutual friends there in town there, Graham. I'll just put up a picture right here. There's Dan Allaire. I had that on an episode where La Maison, you, me, Dan Allaire. Dan Allaire's still on the radio there in Cornwall and doing stand-up comedy now too. Do you see Dan at all?
I've seen some of his stuff online. I know he does a lot of team-ups with Jamie Carr. Yeah. For comedy shows, and we did catch their stand-up. Wouldn't be last summer, but the summer of 2019. Yeah. We caught a couple of shows and some hilarious stuff. So
awesome, man. Yeah. Well, say hello to the city, and I hope to see you sooner than later in person. I promise. I made a promise on Twitter in the height of the first lockdown last April. I'm gonna see all the people that I haven't seen forever, no matter how long it takes. As soon as this whole thing is over, man. So I'm coming to Cornwall. I'm gonna just do the tour and see everybody, man.
Well, give us a shout, and we'll definitely have a coffee together for sure.
Yeah, for sure. A little coffee, a little chit chat, and maybe we'll even put it on the live again. Who knows?
There you go.
Awesome reconnecting. Graham Greer, Barstool Profits. You can see these lovely guys on the internet. Oh, one last thing too, Graham. Yes. I just would love to ask, who's in control of the online content for the band for Barstool Profits? Because who can you make sure that some higher quality videos get up there of you guys? Because it's all like 1994 VHS recorded off of MT or Much Music and then put onto YouTube. Can we get like the actual original cuts up there?
See, you're using the word control.
Yeah, okay. That's I knew I should have asked that earlier.
Loose term.
When we were talking about the record labels.
Well, and even stuff that we've put up. I mean, don't forget, everything we have is on VHS from that time period too, right? So
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Some digital stuff, some DVD content from the mid 90s, but it's we're doing what we can.
Okay, all right. Well, that's good. Anyways, regardless, check them out, and the grainy quality will give you that awesome throwback vibe.
Exactly.
Yes, give you the real 1990s feel. Thanks again, Graham Greer.